Hello everyone, my name is Shivani Tyagi, your philosophy and ethics teacher. So today we are going to understand Mimamsa. So before understanding Mimamsa, let's understand that how many Indian schools do we have. So when we talk about Indian philosophy, we have orthodox, right? Very basic things we'll start with, and then we have heterodox, right? So when we talk about these two, people think that it's all about religion and God, but it's more than that. It's a way of living. That, like, they mentioned about suffering, they mentioned about that how we should end it, they mentioned that how we should have, how to give solutions to each other. They basically question, like, both of these philosophies, both of them question that why we are following these things, right? So when we talk about orthodox, it's basically astic. Now, thinking about Astic and Nastic, you might be thinking that it's all about religion and God. But no. Basically, Astic is that they accepted the authority of Vedas and they didn't. Right? So in this, we have Sankhya, we have Nyaya, we have Mimamsas, we have Vedantas. So we have these kinds of schools in Orthodox. And when we talk about heterodox, we have Charvak here, right? We have Buddhism, we have Jainism, who focused on basically those philosophies which tells us that yes, suffering is there and how we should cure it, how we should end it, right? They focus more on liberation, right? So now, when we talk about Mimamsa, so Mimamsa was given to us by Jamini, an Indian sage, right? So he told us, he mentioned that whatever Vedas we are basically understanding, right? So what's the reason, the question, the why was asked by Mimamsa, right? Why we are following this. So in this Mimamsa theory, so it's more like asking the reason behind it. It was more towards logical, it was more towards reasoning, right? Now let's understand the reason behind it, like what they were saying. So when we talk about it, man means to think or reflect. Whatever Vedas mentioned in it, right? The question were asked, not like why we are following it, but the questions were more related to how we should follow it. What's the correct way of following it? The reasons were asked behind it, right? In Indian philosophy and Hinduism, there are literally many things that we follow. Cremation, right? And following certain rituals. We have reason, we have scientific reasons to it, we have psychological reasons to it, right? And they are basically, Mimamsa is like reflection of all those rituals, of all those thinkings, of all those, ideologies. So when we talk about Mimamsa, it is like investigation, reflection, or basically critical inquiry, asking all the questions related, like why they are presenting in that certain way. So it is one of the six orthodox Astic school of that accept Vedic authority. As I have explained it to you, there is Mimamsa, there is Nyaya, Vashishka, Sankhya, right? All of these schools are present there, and it is one of the six orthodox that we are talking about. For other, I'll be like making one by one. I'll be explaining each and every school to it. So I made video on Sankhya and Nyaya. You can watch it in my playlist. So now next we talk about Karmakanda. So it is basically Vedic section of ritual and duties, right? Not on God, but on Vedic rituals and duties, like basically how we should follow it. Then we have another, apart from Karmakanda, we have another school, that is Jnanakanda. So basically in Gyan Kand, there is basically knowledge, right, which tells us that what kind of rituals do we have, right? And when we talk about Karma Kand, it basically mentions that basically what kind of duties do we have to follow. So in this Gyan Kand, we have knowledge, and in Karma Kand, this is a section where it focuses on ritual and the basically duties that we have to follow. Now, we are going to investigate through Mimamsa that why there are certain rituals that are presented in Vedas, right? Why they are prescribed in that certain way, right? And how we have to follow it. What is the correct way of following it? So don't consider Mimamsa something like questionable on Vedic period. They didn't question Vedas. They basically asked that how we should do it, right? They basically focused on the reasoning behind it, right? So it is basically asked that how to perform them rightly. So these kinds of things were asked in the Mimamsa. So as I said that it was given to us Jamini by like 4th and 2nd century BCE, and the author of Mimamsa Sutra. So Mimamsa Sutra is basically like a thread, right? Like they basically gave us verses, soulful ideas, which were like connecting us with like bigger ideas, right? So this is Sutra. So this is like early post-Vedic to classical era, and the time period is 500 BCE to 200 CE, and it is like transition from Vedic hymns to systematic, reflection on rituals, like what kind of rituals we should follow, why we should follow it, what's the reason behind it, right? They didn't, as I am saying it again and again, because people think that Mimamsa is someone who asks the questions, who basically asks the questions that why we should follow it, but they also ask that how we should follow it. They wanted to know the reason behind it, right? So it was, the core idea was dharmic right, like basically whatever rituals are mentioned in Vedas, right? This is our duty to follow all those actions, to follow all those rituals and rites, right? So when we talk about authority of the Vedas, Shruti, it is eternal and authorless, apurushaya. So as it is like explained in Indian and Western philosophy, both of there, like it is said that humans cannot write such perfect thing. This idea of perfection is there. Like there are two divisions. First division is like it is explained in Mimamsa, saying that humans are perfect. Why they are perfect? Basically, we had this idea of perfection, that God is omnipotent, omniscient, right? Perfect, eternal, right? We have all these ideas. Now, if we are so imperfect, if we have so many lacks in us, that it is impossible to have such idea, right? So somewhere humans are also perfect, right? Then there is a philosophy of Mimamsa also, who says that humans can never be perfect, right? So it is apurushaya, it is not written, these Vedas are not written by humans. Why? Because we are full of errors, we make mistakes, and God is someone, these rituals, these Vedas, right, these sacrifices that are mentioned there, these are written so perfectly that there is no way that these are written by humans, right? This is why they are called apurushaya, and they are eternal. They were existing before also, and they are existing now also, right? So Vedas are eternal, which is nitya and not created by anyone, even God. So as it is said that they are eternal, they were existing before also. So when we talk about dharma, right action, karma, according to Mimamsa, dharma means that you are basically following. Mimamsa asks the questions that why we are following these certain rituals. This is the dharma you should have. You should ask the question that what is the right ritual we have to follow, what is the way of following it. So that should be done right in a correct manner. So when we talk about Mimamsa, its action is based on, it is action based, not on emotion based. And it is about what you do, not what you feel. It's more towards your, as dharma it is mentioned. So dharma is basically more than emotions, right? There are certain rituals in Vedas which may, hold you emotionally, but you have to do it because that's your duty. This is why it is says that it is like action based. You have to do it. That's your duty. Now, there are pramanas. I have explained it in the previous class also, for Indian philosophy, and all the schools you should have one table where you have to write that what is the like valid means of knowledge that they have accepted. Like when we talk about Mimamsa accepted perception, inference, comparison, right? Presumptions, all these things were accepted by Mimamsa. So when we talk about perception, the contact with object and with you, right? That is perception, the direct contact. Now, inference is drawing logical conclusion. Like if there is smoke, then there must be fire. So this is logical reasoning, right? There is some basically context behind that reason. Then we have comparison, learning by similarity. You see someone, similar to your friend, this resemblance could be seen. So that's like comparing it with someone, right? This is how we analyze things, by comparison. Presumptions, inferring the unseen. You assume something to be something else, right? So this assumption is basically presumption. Basically, you assumed it before only. Then we have non-perceptions. Knowing something is absent. Basically, you are understanding that if something is not present in the room, then you assume whatever the knowledge you are thinking ought to be, you assume from that absent. So knowing anything from that absent of the knowledge, you get to know the new information, right? So when we talk about verbal testimony, especially the Vedas, so verbal testimony, Mansa accepted verbal testimony more. They have like this means of knowledge holds the more weightage in Mimamsa. The reason behind is Vedas are written, right? They are presented to us through Shabd, through testimony, right? So this is why verbal testimony holds very special place in Mimamsa and is considered a very valid means of knowledge. Because Shabda are someone, basically they are written, as explained that they are apurushaya, they are not written by humans. So there is no way that we cannot trust them. Those sages who wrote them, we are basically trusting them with full our reliability, right? So among these Shabda, Vedic testimony is supreme. It alone reveals truths, right? So it is beyond human experience, like heaven, duty and karma. As I explained, now because we are someone who cannot have access to certain things, this is why there are Purushai. These Vedas are not written by us. So these are the characters that we have regarding Mimamsa. I'll be back with another part of this. Till then, thank you.